Back in 2016, I found this abandoned cottage, and when I made that video, I mentioned that I found some outbuildings. However, one of them, well, it looked different to the rest. You see, England's got a lot of different types of houses. You've got massive mansions, and then you've got weirdly tiny homes. And some of these are gatehouses, but some of them are bothies. And if you're not sure what a bothy is, it's just a small hut that workers on a farm would live in, and they are actually small houses. And some of these houses are really old, and they're even listed in the Domesday Book, which was a survey which was done almost 1,000 years ago. And this is quite important for the mess that kind of unraveled with this project. And it all started because of an 86-year-old woman who walked past one day whilst I was clearing the land, and she started saying how she's lived in the area for a long time. It's great that we're not knocking the house down and that we're renovating it. And just before she left, she goes, "What's your plans with the old cottage?" And I said, "Oh, we're renovating it." And she goes, "No, not that cottage, this one." Now, in this moment, the business part of my brain is going, why has she just called this falling down outbuilding a cottage? So I start asking her what she means. Now remember, she's 86, and she said she used to walk past this cottage every single day when she went to school. And some days she would walk with her mum. Now when they'd walk past this building, her mum would tell her stories about the area and how old it is, and how this overgrown building used to have a light on in the house and a chimney with smoke coming out of it. Now if you do the maths on 86 plus a mum, and then that mum is a kid, you're talking 100 years ago was the last time someone lived in this. So all of this damage has been caused in only 100 years, which is just mad. But what's even more mad is if what she is saying is true, well, I just won the lottery, because I bought one house and I got two. And if you know, you know, split the land, and I've just made an extra like $500,000 for nothing. And that sort of stuff doesn't happen very often. Like imagine that was you bought something and you just made an extra $500,000. It's the stuff of dreams. And then it became a bit of a nightmare, because going back hundreds of years to find out all the original paperwork and how this tiny home, well, it used to be part of the land that was owned by a medieval hall that then later got converted into a house. So this tiny home is super old. And when things get old, I mean, the planning process and dealing with council, I mean, the rules and regulations that get put in place, and the emphasis on the historical importance of a building, which if I wasn't the one fixing it, would fall down, has never and will never make any sense to me. It's like I wasn't allowed to put a skylight in the roof because of the negative visual impact on the area. This is what it looks like right now. It technically has lots of skylights because the corrugated iron roof has holes in it and trees growing out of it. Like, you can't make it look any uglier than what it's looking like now, surely. And then there was the actual reconstruction of it. Apparently I wasn't good enough to restore it, so I had to pay the most disgusting day rate to someone to redo all the cob. And if you don't know, cob is just pretty much mud thrown at a wall. But it is what it is. I shut up, paid the bill. But it did have an impact on me, because in 2023, I came across this abandoned tiny home. And to me, it was, well, a dream. It had a river running alongside it, and my mind was going mad with ideas how I can do all the landscaping, what I can build there. And then after a few conversations with the council, I was like, there is not a chance I'm going anywhere near this house. Long story short, the legitimacy of the house was a little bit of a mess, but that wasn't the thing that put me off it. It was in fact the river. You see, rivers, erosion, flooding equals a mess. Council gets involved, they say you need to do X, Y, Z. If I do those things, then it affects the waterways, and then I'm going to need all these surveys. And then they'll say in 1815, we saw an otter here, so now you need to do all these otter protections. Then you need to create a 30-centimeter high fence around the entire plot because your neighbor reported that there was a salamander. However, we haven't found any salamanders. And then there might be a bat, and if there's a bat, you're going to have to spend £35,000 building a new bat shed. That is a real example of what a friend of mine had to do to make the council happy. It is actually a bit scary how out of hand things can get. but 99% of the time you'll be absolutely fine. And as a general rule, if you just avoid listed buildings or buildings that are of historic importance, it'll all go fine. But when it goes bad, it can go real bad. And thankfully, when the council started getting difficult with my abandoned tiny home, and they wouldn't let me bring it from 500 years ago to the modern day, I had the idea that the stable block opposite it, I could potentially convert that into a house. Now, as you can imagine, the council absolutely they loved that idea. They loved it. And the process that was about to take place, I didn't realise would take as long as it did. And for those of you who don't know, I get bored of things easily and then I just move on. And then it's a new thing and it's a new thing and it's a new thing. And then I get obsessed with it and then I get good at it. And then when I get good at it, I get bored at it. And that's why houses is the best business that I could be involved in, because every single one is different and unique. It's like, for example, I sold the house in London. Then I was like, I've got some money now. What should I do? And then I started building a new build tiny home. And by the way, the building process of that tiny home was effortless because back in, 2020, I found out about a loophole which allows you to build tiny homes in areas you would never normally be allowed to get permission. And for the last now 2 years, I've been instructing clients on how to use this loophole. It's actually insane when you see the difficulty I went through with the abandoned tiny house to how effortless it was with the new build tiny house. It's unbelievable. And if you're interested in buying this information, just send me a message on Instagram. It won't cost the thousands of pounds it cost me because I can sell it on quantity. And it really is the best kept secret in the UK. And in fact, I think the whole tiny home movement is a best kept secret, because moving from a 10 square meter house in London to this is where I got a bit out of hand again. So it started off as like a 30 something square meter tiny home. And then I was like, well, I need a place for my cars. And then I was like, well, I should probably have an office. And then I was like, well, maybe I should get into woodwork. So then I need a woodworking shed. Now there is a reason why the tiny home still is not finished. And that is because my life has gone mad. Like in a previous video, I mentioned that in 2021, I got my Swiss residency, and I've decided now that it is time for me to leave the UK. It's not for tax evasion. No, wait, which is the legal one? Avoidance is legal. That's it. My accountants taught me that. Yeah, no, it's not just for the tax. It's because, right, hear me out. I always heard this saying as I was growing up, which is if you ever get to the point you complain about tax, you've done all right in your life, and just shut up and pay your tax. But now that I'm in a position where I'm actually paying like an aggressive amount in tax, I was like, what can I do about this? And then Switzerland enters the chat and they're like, oh yeah, you'll pay less tax here. And then on top of that, if you want to invest in the stock market, you don't have to pay any capital gains tax. Now in the UK, the UK's response to this is, no, we'll tax you the most insane amount on your salary. And then from your after-tax salary, you save that and then you invest that in the stock market. And you incur the risk. You take that initiative to do a difficult thing. And if you make money, yeah, we want some of that in capital gains tax. That doesn't make any sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of other countries. And then you get hit with but Switzerland's so expensive. And then you go, yes, but you earn more because you pay less tax. And then also you don't pay capital gains tax on your stock investment. So therefore you have more money. And I lived in Geneva in 2022 and my rent was not very much money at all. And then my weekly food shop was less than it was in London. And also, where I'm moving to, I found out people don't drive their car to the supermarket. They just get in a cable car and then go down the mountain to go to the shop, then get back in the cable car with their shopping. So I'm going to save money on fuel. And so it makes financial sense for me to move to Switzerland. But then also the lifestyle. So instead of winter being just cold and rainy in England, it's going to snow and I'm going to go skiing. And that sounds more of like a lifestyle fun thing. Now, I love England. I think during the summer, it's one of the nicest places in the world to be. And I will always spend a percentage of my year in England. But because, look, aggressive sentences coming up right now. When I used to earn like £17,000 a year and I was starting my side hustles, which then developed into businesses, you have to make a time investment. And that time investment means You're not going to the pub and you're not doing like normal stuff on the weekends because you're trying to get something that no one else has, and therefore you got to do something which no one else is prepared to do. Now, during this process, you're going to get met with some of the most bizarre statements I've ever heard. Like, Chris, you need to live while you're young, and money's not going to make you happy. And I'd always leave those sorts of conversations thinking, well, how do you know money's not going to make you happy? Because last time I checked, you haven't got any. So you're just repeating something that you've heard. So that doesn't make any sense. And then the whole living while you're young thing, I don't even know where to begin with that, because it seems the living aspect of living while you're young is just living day to day with no regard for tomorrow, which is surviving. It's not living. I just want to let you all know that the same person you're looking at now who's moving to Switzerland for tax efficiency, the same person who got held back 2 years in a row at school for failing everything, and when asked why he isn't doing homework, all I could say is, I'm really good at trick shotting on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And I can remember the teachers looking at me being like, what, a video game? And I'm like, yeah, it's like all I do. Like, do you guys watch Hutch, Cnanas, Grizz? Like, is that not what you guys are into? And the teachers were like, Chris, we think there's something wrong with you because you can't sit still in class and concentrate. And I remember hearing that and being like, well, how can I sit still and play Call of Duty for hours and hours and hours? And then I realized, oh, it's because I'm interested in it. And then when I started thinking about my future, I was like, oh, I just want to play Call of Duty all the time. So how do I play Call of Duty all the time? I need to just get rich. And then I don't have to work for my time. And how do I get rich? Well, unfortunately, there is a system. And there are CVs. And you need to have good grades. And so I put a lot more effort in at school. I didn't get amazing grades by any means. I got like a B, some C's and an E. And then I did an apprenticeship scheme in finance. And then as soon as I walked onto that trading floor, I realised that the world that we get presented and then the reality of it are two very, very different things. And it took me 5 days to set a countdown on my phone to be like, I need to get out of this place because I don't want to end up like the people who are 10 years older than me, who genuinely, if you ever get past the like corporate superficial BS chat, you find out that they've all got very similar plans and ambitions. And it's not who can stay in this company for the longest amount of time and keep getting your salary and your bonus. It's who can get out of it the quickest. And out of the people that I worked with, I won. I mean, I left in 2023. I think I was on holiday for approximately 3 weeks, really, of doing nothing. And then I was like, yep, let's get back to work. And then 2023 was the most money I'd ever made in my life. And then in January 2024, I made more money in that single month than I did the entire year of 2023, which is why you never give up on anything, because you don't know what single minute change is going to be the thing that is the catalyst. It's the thing that makes everything make sense. And unfortunately for all of you, I don't know what that moment is with your business, your idea, your dream, be it you wanting to become an artist, own a bakery, become a property developer. I don't know what is the thing that makes you just start, finally, so you don't have to make any more of these BS New Year's resolutions. I don't know what that thing's going to be, and I definitely don't know what your why is going to be, but you got to make it strong enough that you don't give up, because that is genuinely all it comes down to, is whoever gives up last wins. But anyway, back to the abandoned tiny house project. And if you look at this photo here, this is what it looked like on the day I collected the keys. And you just got to have some vision, because after a week of clearing the land, this is how it transformed. And what surprised me is this stable block is actually a pretty substantial building. It's 60 square meters. And after a lot of time and a fair amount of money, I actually managed to get planning permission to make this into a 2-bedroom house. And although it is full of rubbish and it's quite hard to walk around, I mean, I almost broke my ankle doing this bit. Ready, send it. It's actually got really decently sized rooms, and admittedly it's quite hard to see at the moment because it's just got so much rubbish in it. It's probably, I don't know, 5 skips worth of stuff that I need to get rid of. But once all the rooms are emptied and I've knocked some walls down, I think I can make it into a really nice house with 2 bedrooms, a shared bathroom. I mean, I might even be able to get away with putting an ensuite in one of the bedrooms, but just got to remember it's only 60 square meters, so I can't go too insane. And then the kitchen, living area, I'm planning to make that all open plan. Now I'll chuck on the screen what the vision is for how I'm going to deal with the lighting situation, because this building is super dark and there's not very many windows. So the idea is every single stable door is going to become a floor to ceiling window, which will let light into every single bedroom, and then kind of like the existing corridor. I think that's what I want to keep, and then just knock down one of the internal walls to make a larger kitchen living area. Essentially, there's not really much to change on the internals of this building. Now, the tiny house, that is a project all in itself. I mean, I've built a few tiny houses. This is the tiniest of all tiny houses. It's like 10 square meters. And so I'm quite limited on what I'm going to be able to do to that. And I do just want to say apologies if this video is not my normal style. This is before I started a YouTube channel where I just took photos of things, and I genuinely cannot believe that I even still have the drone footage of this place. And I do just want to say a massive thank you to every single person who has been liking the videos and subscribing. I just received a 100,000 subscriber plaque from YouTube, which is just unbelievable, and I seriously cannot thank you all enough. I mean, Instagram was mad, YouTube was even more unbelievable, and then to have a bestseller on Substack for this amount of time, I just can't believe it. And if you are new to the channel, every single Sunday I send out a new newsletter which cover everything from the side hustles that I did whilst I had a 9 to 5, and one of the side hustles I did at my desk and none of my colleagues had any clue. It's got no startup cost, so the only person who's stopping you from doing it is you. So search Havesomevision on Substack or click the link in the description and get reading. Now, before I show you the finished exterior of the abandoned tiny house, I do just want to say, you've got to remember, I was not in control of the design of this. And when you see the front door, I think you might understand why I rage quit and I said, do you know what? If the council are gonna be like this, I can just walk away. And that's what I did. And then I moved to London, and you know what happened from that point. But do I feel bad about spending the money restoring this old building? No, I actually quite like it. I think there's something nice about cob buildings because they're just such weird shapes. Like, look at it. It's built all on a flint foundation. And if you're thinking, Chris, why did you fill the doorway in with bricks? That's how I found the front door. And the doorway is really short. And I don't know why they bricked the doorway in. Kind of scares me because the window was also bricked in. Might have something to do with the window tax that happened years ago. I genuinely don't know. But I wasn't allowed to put a glass front door in to allow light into the building. And that was the final straw for me. So I told them where they could go. And maybe, who knows, in a future video, I might accidentally fall against it with a sledgehammer in my hand. And then I'll just have to probably make it into a window at that point. It's a complete bizarre accident. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and if it's not too much to ask, if you could share this video with one friend, it would instantly double its exposure, which would really help my channel grow. So that's it for this video. As always, no matter what you're up to in life, just keep going. It always gets better. So have some vision, have some work ethic, and I will see you next week.